Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Alright, and welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and we have a new host, myself, Jesse Tapia. Alright, my first episode doing the basketball podcast. Usually you hear me over doing the GSMC Sports, GSMC Football, and GSMC Fantasy Football podcasts, but now that Ryan is gone, I'm here to fill in pretty much for as long as I'm here, I guess. So, yeah, I'm going to be the host of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, and I've been really looking forward to this because, you know, there's always something to talk about when it comes to basketball. I mean, you got the Cavs beating down on the Celtics Sunday. You got Isaiah Thomas pretty much looking like that hip is all healed up. You got Jay Crowder playing well with the Jazz, and pretty much, like I said, just anything. You can talk about anything when it comes to basketball. So, I will be your host going forward. Really excited, to do the show. All right, so let me give you a rundown of what today's show is going to look like. We're going to talk about, for the first segment, we're going to be talking about the Cavs and Celtics game that went on Sunday. All right, talk about the new look Cavs, talk about what went wrong with the Celtics. Then for the second segment, we're going to be recapping the rest of the Sunday the games from Sunday, For the third, we'll be talking about pretty much anything else that went over on the weekend. Talk about Dwayne Wade with the Heat on Friday. Talk about Isaiah Thomas's game with the Lakers on Saturday. Probably talk, you know what? I think we're just going to make that where are they now type segment with the guys that got traded away from the Cavs. So we'll be doing that, talking about their performances, talking about how poor Iman Shumpert got the worst end of everyone going to Sacramento. But yeah, we'll be talking about all that. And then for the fourth segment, what I like to do is pretty much talk about whatever's going through my mind as far as basketball goes, or pretty much talk about anything else going on in the world of basketball. Right? Greg Oden making a comeback, not in the NBA, but with a different league. So we'll be talking about that too. So let's get into it. All right, yesterday, which was Sunday, we had the Cleveland Cavaliers heading into Boston, facing off with the Celtics on Paul Pierce Day. All right, Paul Pierce was getting his jersey and all that retired after the game. And once again, LeBron figured out to ruin his day. All right, Cavs won this one 121-99. You had LeBron in this one with 24 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, shot 9 of 20, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. Cedi Osman, this guy, I watched him a couple of times throughout the season, and there was some about him that I liked, all right? He played well in this game. He had 12 points, 5 rebounds, shot 4 of 8, 2 of 3 from the three-point line, so he had a pretty good game there. Then you had George Hill in his first start with the Cavs. He had 12 points. He had 1 assist, 3 rebounds, shot 3 of 8, 2 of 4 from the three-point line. J.R. Smith with a good game here, 15 points, 6 and 7 shooting, 3 of 4 from the three-point line. Then he had 6 rebounds also. And then off the bench with the new lit Cavs, you had Larry Nance Jr. with 5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. All right, he shot 2 of 5. Jordan Clarkson, he has 17 points, shot 7 of 11, 3 of 4 from the three-point line. Rodney Hood, 15 points, 6 of 11 shooting, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. And you got guys like Jeff Green, who contributed off the bench too, had 10 points, shot 3 of 6 from the field, 0 of 1 from the three-point line. Jeff Green has been pretty good so far this season. No one's really been talking about him, but he steps up when he's needed. All right, now as for the Celtics, I mean, you had Marcus Morris with 17 points, 3 rebounds, shot 6 of 12, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. Al Horford only took 8 shots, and this one wasn't really too productive. As far as taking shots, but he had 9 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, shot 4 of 8 from the field. Jason Tatum, not the best shooting night from him, only 9 points, 4 of 11 shooting. Kyrie Irving started the game off hot and then pretty much cooled off from, I guess, the end of the second quarter on. He had 18 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 7 of 14, 1 of 7 from the three-point line. Jaylen Brown was nowhere to be found here. He had 5 points, 7 rebounds, shot 2 of 9, 0 of 5 from the three-point line. Off the bench, you had Terry Rozier, who's been playing really well the last, 5 games, I guess you could say. 21 points, 5 assists, 9 rebounds, shot 6 of 15, 3 of 8 from the three-point line. So that's how the game went right there as far as stats. I was really kind of curious to see how the new look Cavs, pretty much first game playing together, would do against one of the probably the best team in the East in the Boston Celtics. All right, and the first quarter, Boston's up 32-31, and then pretty much from the second quarter on, it was all Cavs. I mean, the Cavs finished the first half up, 64-52, and like I said, after that, it was all she wrote right there. Boston had no chance, and this Cavs team, I mean, it was night and day from what they were before. I mean, let me put it this way, all right? So this new Cavs team, you got guys like Jordan Clarkson, Rodney Hood, all right, George Hill, Larry Nance. Those 4 guys you brought, those are guys that can play with LeBron. You know, those are guys that aren't going to try and command the ball, trying to get their shots out and pretty much get theirs, you know, as Isaiah Thomas and guys like Jay Crowder. These are guys who are probably happy to be playing with LeBron, don't need the spotlight on them, don't need to do too much, pretty much going in there to do their job. All right, and I think that's why the Cavs played so well in this game. All right, you don't got a guy like Isaiah Thomas who's going to need to take at least 12 to 14 shots a game just so he gets his production out there. And like I said, we'll be talking about Isaiah in the third segment. All right, you don't got guys like Derrick Rose out there going 0 for 7, pretty much past their prime. All right, Dwayne Wade coming off with the second unit, pretty much taking up the shots there, and then like guys like Jay Crowder who don't really seem to be a fit there. I think Jay Crowder had a little not like a press conference type thing, was talking with reporters after his game against the Jazz, talking about how he just really wasn't a fit with the Cavs. So I mean, these guys that they brought in, boom, already fitting in, and it's kind of interesting to see because now with the Cavs beating down on the Celtics like that, now we got prisoner of the moment type people. All right, we got the Cavs are the best team in the East. Okay, Boston isn't as good as we thought they were. All right, and then we got the Cavs are going to make it out of the East already, easily, okay? I understand it all. I understand why we're doing this, okay? Because it's a completely different team, it looks like. Well, not it looks like it is, I mean, pretty much, okay? And this Cavs team, like I said, did look good. I'm not hating on the fact that people are trying to say that the Cavs are the number 1 team in the East. I'm still going with the Celtics as the number 1 team in the East, but let me say this, okay? If the Cavs continue to play like how they did against the Celtics and pretty much keep building off consistent performances, right? I mean, look at this right here. Cavs, before this trade, were the worst defensive team in the league, and then they only gave up 99 to the Celtics, all right? Celtics are, let's be honest, aren't the best offensive team, but if you're playing a team like against a team like the Cavs, then you're probably going to have a good chance of putting up over 100 each game because the Cavs defense was garbage. But nonetheless, here we are, like I said, keeping them under 100 and playing well. All right, this team on defense just needs to put in effort. All right, you don't need no first team all-pro defensive stoppers or anything like that. All right, you just need guys who are out there to put in effort. All right, the guys before the Cavs team, let's just say this. The Cavs team before with Isaiah Thomas and all those guys were a bunch of prima donnas, all right? Guys who felt entitled to pretty much taking the ball and shooting as much as they can. This team, I feel, is going to be, that's exactly what it is. It's more of a team, all right? You're going to see guys sharing the ball a whole lot more. All right, it's going to go through LeBron. And like I said, you got guys like George Hill, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance, and Rodney Hood aren't going to care that LeBron's dominating the ball most of the time because they're just happy to be out there playing with the guy. I mean, you're going from teams like Utah and the Lakers and look at George Hill. I mean, George Hill coming from Sacramento to Cleveland is probably like the best thing that's ever happened to him in his career. I mean, imagine having him play in Sacramento. But nonetheless, I mean, these guys are just happy to be in a better situation. So I think this team is going to work out a whole lot better than the team before did. All right. So like I said, I mean, if this team continues to put up consistent performances and play well, then yeah, they're going to be the best team in the East by far. It's looking like, because I mean, look at the Celtics here. All right. They got Kyrie Irving. And yeah, that's one of the best scorers in the league. But who do you have after that, okay? You do have a guy like Jason Tatum, but he's a rookie, all right? But he's going to have some games where he just doesn't look like he's playing well, all right? He's going to hit the rookie wall. You got Jaylen Brown, who, for the better part of the season, has been playing well. I think he's been averaging about 17 to 19 points a game. So pretty much increased the scoring output by, I think, 8 points from last season. So he's been playing well, but you can't count on him to be consistent as far as scoring the ball. Al Horford, I mean, that's more of a post-up type player. Yeah, he's going to hit a couple of threes for you, but you really can't depend on him. Off the bench, you do have a guy like Terry Rozier who could go out and put up 21 points like he did on Sunday, but, I mean, after that, you really don't have anyone else. Like, the Celtics at the trade deadline needed a guy like Tyreek Evans, I feel, or even to sign a player like Marco Bellinelli or Joe Johnson as far as those two guys getting bought out. But, as you know, Joe Johnson is going to Houston, Bellinelli is going to the Sixers. And the Celtics never traded for Tyreek Evans. So now they're out of that's what they need. It's been the problem the last few years, okay? Last few years, they just didn't have someone to complement IT as far as scoring, creating his own shot. You have Kyrie Irving, but let's say Kyrie Irving goes 1 for 7 from the three-point line like he did against the Cavs on Sunday. what do you have after that? All right, you can't just depend on Terry Rozier to go out and do his thing with the second unit. You need a guy with that first unit that's going to be able to go out, create his own shot, and put up consistent points. But that's what they're lacking, and I think that Danny Ainge, he is the best GM in the league, but his problem is that there's always it's not even really much of a problem. It's pretty much Danny Ainge sticks to the plan a bit too much, if that makes any sense whatsoever, right? Because the plan was obviously this past offseason to get Hayward, which they did, and then they traded for Kyrie, all right? They didn't plan, obviously, no one could have planned for the fact that Gordon Hayward's ankle is pretty much going to fall off of his body in that first game against the Cavs. So that's one part where you're missing that second score. So I do understand why the Celtics didn't give up a guy like Marcus Smart or a first-round pick for a half-year rental like Tyreek Evans. I get that completely, but if you're going to be doing that, then you need to go out and sign someone that got bought out. Like I said, go sign Joe Johnson or Marco Bellinelli. You let those guys slip, so now you're pretty much stuck. All right, it's looking like this Cavs team is going to be getting better. So now, it might just be another wasted season for the Celtics. Wasted meaning we're going to have to wait another year for the Cavs to dominate, and then next year is the year that they do it. All right, and who knows? Maybe Gordon Hayward comes back at the end of the season, and I'm not holding my breath on it or anything like that. Maybe he comes back, and let's say Gordon Hayward does come back. Does he run it with the first unit or the second unit? I say put him in the second unit and keep the same starting five. But if you have him come with the second unit, you got guys like Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward who could score, and you got a defensive stopper, Marcus Smart, who, that's one thing that's hurt him too the last couple of weeks. The Celtics really have been playing the best basketball the last couple of weeks, and I think that's because, one, Marcus Smart has been out. I know probably the general consensus around the league is that they don't like Marcus Smart, maybe because the guy does flop, I'll admit it. All right, and he does, he's not the best shooter by any means. The dude shoots 29% from the three-point line. I think it's close to worse than the league. But nonetheless, the guy does provide a spark for that Celtics team where you need a defensive stopper off the bench or pretty much a momentum shifter on that team. So, the Celtics, I think it is going to hurt them unless somehow Gordon Hayward comes back by playoffs or maybe by the Eastern Conference Finals and, is playing fine. But, having no score on that team is going to hurt them like it did last year and like it did the year before. So we'll see how it all ends up for them. But like I said, going back to the Cavs, whether it's Kobe Altman, Dan Gilbert, or LeBron James who made these moves, bravo. All right. The pretty much wizardry that they pulled off as far as making these trades. The biggest part about these trades that they made too was the fact that they kept the Brooklyn pick. That was huge right there, all right? Because you still have a bunch of young players on your team now, whether LeBron leaves or whether LeBron stays. Plus, like I said, you have that Brooklyn pick to use if you need it. All right, so like I said, whoever was making the moves, because I'm not even sure. You have people on Twitter saying, oh, yeah, LeBron James, GM of the year, making all kinds of crazy moves. Then you got people saying, oh, yeah, Kobe Altman. And I remember reading an ESPN article, it was last week, saying that Dan Gilbert was a little power hungry here, trying to pretty much show that he's the one who's doing it all. So it could be either of them. All right, I don't think it was LeBron James who has had any influence in these trades, because like I said, in that article I was reading, it said, too, that LeBron James pretty much cut off all communication with the front office. They're not really asking him for his opinion like David Griffin did when he was there or anything like that. So, it's pretty much LeBron is just a player now. He's not GM LeBron like everyone likes to say. So, either way, though, these trades look good and looking like it's working out for everyone. Like I said, we'll talk about the people who were traded away from the Cavs in the third segment, but it looks like it's going to help out everyone here. And watch out for Cedi Osman, too. That's not going to be like a star player or anything like that, but it's going to be a guy, a little X factor in the playoffs type guy right there who plays a little bit of defense and comes up with some big moments. So watch out for that guy. But nonetheless, that's all I got to say about that game right there. Like I said, next up, we're going to be talking about the rest of the NBA games from Sunday. Going to recap those, talk a bit about each team. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. In that last segment, we talked about, what was it, the Cavs-Celtics game. Cavs beat down on the Celtics 121-99. I mean, the Celtics really didn't really have any chance in that game after the first quarter. And like I said before, I mean, the Cavs look really good with these new league players. So, I mean, you can only go up from here, I guess you could say. I mean, because the Cavs were a really bad team with the dudes they had a couple of days ago. So, hopefully this all works out for them, because if it does, the Cavs are going to be a dangerous team. But let me put this in the air right now, all right? No matter how good the Cavs look or get, please do not go out and put this in your mind that, oh, maybe they have a chance against the Warriors, because they do not. All right, I just want to put that out there now. All right, before we ever get into anything else, the Cavs, whether it's they win every game from this point on to the finals, they have no chance against the Warriors. All right, none whatsoever. Don't think about it. Don't think twice. Don't even overthink it. All right, maybe against a team like the Rockets, maybe, but against the Warriors, I mean, no. All right, so don't think about it. All right, that's all I got to say about that. Now we're going to be talking about the NBA games from Sunday besides the Cavs and Celtics game, all right? Because believe it or not, there were some other teams who played, so let's give them some shine. All right, we got the Toronto Raptors. They headed into Charlotte, faced off with the Hornets, and the Raptors won that one easily, 123-103. For the Raptors, you had Serge Ibaka with 10 points, 8 rebounds, 5 of 8 shooting, 0 of 3 from the three-point line. Jonas Valanciunas had 21 points, 9 rebounds, shot 9 of 14 in that one. Kyle Lowry, only 9 shots taken in this one, made 4 of them. Actually, coincidentally, those were all from the three-point line. That dude has been, I feel like every time I look at his stats, it's always, every time he takes a shot, it's from the three-point line. I just don't get it whatsoever. He had 12 points, 7 assists. DeMar DeRozan had 25 points, 8 assists, shot 10 of 19, 3-6 from the three-point line. If that guy could develop a solid three-point shot, I mean, he'd be one of the best players in the league. And I think we should be talking about DeMar DeRozan as one of the better players in the league. I don't think he gets enough hype as he should. All right, off the bench, you had CJ Miles with 24 points, 8 of 11 shooting, 6 of 9 from the three-point line. And then you had Fred VanVleet with 10 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 4 of 6, 2 of 3 from the three-point line. As for the Hornets, you had Dwight Howard with 17 points, 13 rebounds, shot 7 of 11. Kemba Walker with 23 points, 9 assists, 7 of 17. Nicholas Batum with a solid game, 2 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 0 of 10. Yeah, I was being sarcastic about him if you couldn't tell. Frank the Tank Kaminsky had 10 points, 4 rebounds, shot 3 of 8, 2 of 4 from the three-point line. And then you had good old Jeremy Lamb with 13 points, 5 of 10 shooting, 1 of 2 from the three-point line off the bench. Malik Monk finally got some play in this game. Got 5 points, 2 of 5 shooting, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. All right, let's talk about the Raptors for a bit. I feel so bad for fans of Toronto and for the team. All right, this team gets no respect whatsoever. All right, I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the fact that they get bounced in the first or second round year after year, but this team is getting no respect. All right, this team is the number 1 seed in the East, mind you. All right, a half game up on Boston, 6 games up on Cleveland, and then 7.5 up on Washington. All right. And no one is giving them any respect as a team who could come out the East. And you know what? I understand it. I completely get it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think the Raptors are gonna be making it to the Eastern Conference Finals or anything like that. Actually, you know what? I don't know. Might this be the year that they do? I don't think that they're gonna end up finishing as the number 1 seed in the East, because I mean, it's the Raptors. They don't do this stuff. They don't finish off strong, and they don't play well in the playoffs. All right, I think they're going to end up, it's going to be, honestly, let me put it this way. It's going to be Boston or Cleveland as that number 1 seed, all right? And I know I said don't be a prisoner of the moment as far as Cleveland's game on Sunday, but they did look good, all right? So I think if Cleveland's able to put it together, I mean, they go on a nice little run, end up near that number 1 spot, closer than 6 games right now. I mean, they could end up with that spot, and like I said, I still think Boston's going to end up with it. Let me say this. I think it's going to be Boston or Cleveland for that number 1 spot. And I mean, if Toronto's going to face off with Cleveland in the Eastern Conference semis, I mean, we know who wins that, right? Do we know? I think we do. All right, I mean, Boston, like I said, if they finish as the number 1 seed, I mean, they're going to have to see Washington in the Eastern Conference semis, and I'll take Boston that series easily. So, I mean, Toronto, like, it stinks because, like, Toronto, we should be talking about them like they are a good team in the East, like one of the best teams in the East. But for some reason, like I said, it's just Kyle Lowry playoff syndrome. I mean, the guy just does not show up, and the team always folds under pressure. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll prove us wrong, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see. I can't really say that the Raptors are a team who can come out the East right now. All right. As for Charlotte, I mean, they never traded Kemba Walker, so, I mean, they're just going to keep losing with him. I mean, I see them trading him in the offseason if we're being real here. I mean, there's no real reason to keep him on the team. Yeah, he's a good player, but he's not bringing wins to the franchise. Trade him somewhere where he could play on a good team and get a first-round pick out of him. All right, as for the next game, we have the Detroit Pistons facing off with the Atlanta Hawks. This one was in Atlanta, and turns out Atlanta pulled out the win in this one, 118-115. For the Pistons, you had Blake Griffin with 23 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, shot 7 of 21, 3 of 10 from the three-point line. Reggie Bullock, who's been having pretty much, he's been playing lights out ever since Griffin got there. He had 20 points, 5 rebounds, shot 7 of 13, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. Andre Drummond with 25 points, 15 rebounds, 8 of 14 shooting. Let's see, off the bench, you had Anthony Tolliver with 12 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, shot 3 of 7 from the field, which was, all those shots were actually from the three-point line. Then you had James Ennis with 14 points, 4 rebounds, shot 5 of 7, 1 of 2 from the three-point line. As for those Atlanta Hawks, you had Aaron Ilyasova with 19 points, 5 rebounds. He shot 5 of 9 from the field. Dwayne Dedmon with 20 points, 13 rebounds, 7 of 9 shooting. Dennis Schroeder with 23 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 7 of 13. And Kent Bazemore with pretty much a stat line looking like me at a pickup game at the park. He had 10 points, 5 assists, but shot 1 of 8 from the field. All right. So the Pistons are going to be fighting for that eighth seed with the Philadelphia 76ers for probably the rest of the season. All right. Charlotte's currently 23-30. They're about 6.5 games back of the eighth seed right now. So it's going to be between the Pistons and Sixers. And I don't really see any of those other teams coming up and trying to fight either of those two teams between the Pistons and Sixers. All right. So the thing with the Pistons is they were 27-26 at one point. Now they're on a 2-game losing streak. They need to figure out how to beat these bad teams if they want to make that eighth spot. Okay. The Pistons with Blake Griffin are a much better team than the Pistons with Tobias Harris and Avery Bradley, believe it or not. All right, Blake Griffin has been making everyone on that team play a whole lot better than what they have been so far this season. So that's one plus of it. But like I said, if the Pistons truly want to make the playoffs with Blake Griffin, they got to start winning these games. You can't be losing to teams like the Nets. You can't be losing to a team like the Hawks. All right, those are games you got to pull out. All right, yeah, I guess if you lose to teams like the Celtics, Cavs, or Wizards, whatever, those are tough teams to play. But you got to pull out these wins against bad teams in order to solidify that spot in the eighth seed. All right, because Philly, they've been playing extremely well lately. So if you can't keep up, then you're really gonna have no shot. But I wouldn't be too mad if the Pistons didn't make the playoffs, because you missed the playoffs, you get a lottery pick. All right, and maybe that's because I'm not really sure still what the plan is for the Pistons. Maybe they're waiting for Reggie Jackson to get healthy, and they're thinking, yeah, when Reggie gets back, then yeah, we'll be a team in the playoffs and we'll get past the Sixers. But even then, what is the plan? Is it just to make the playoffs, or do they have some maybe they're trying to make a run for LeBron in free agency? I think they have 10-1 odds to sign him from Vegas in free agency, and I was kind of surprised. I didn't think of the Pistons as being a team who could sign LeBron. Let me see if I can find the actual odds. Let's see. All right, so yeah, the Rockets got 5-2 odds. The Cavs got 11-4 odds. Lakers 5-1. Warriors 6-1, and then the Detroit Pistons with, let me see, 1-2, the 5th best odds out of everyone to sign LeBron at 10-1. They're tied with the Sixers at 10-1, but nonetheless, Pistons being on there. Believe it or not, Vegas does know a whole lot more than what we think we know, so maybe they know some. But nonetheless, maybe that's their plan. They're trying to make a run at LeBron in the offseason. LeBron, Andre Drummond, and Blake Griffin will be a pretty nasty team, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. So they're going to have some type of backup plan, if that even is their plan at all. So, like I said, it's pretty much looking for some transparency as far as what the Pistons are trying to do. But nonetheless, like I said, they're 2 games back of Philly for that 8th seed. All right, as for the next game, we had the New York Knicks facing off with the Indiana Pacers in Indiana, and the Pacers won this one 121-113. For the Knicks, you had Michael Beasley with 16 points, 13 rebounds, 8 of 16 shooting. That dude's been having quite the season so far this year. All right, Tim Hardaway Jr. had 17 points, 7 of 17 shooting, 3 of 10 from the three-point line. Ennis Cantor has also been having himself a nice little season, 17 points, 11 rebounds, shot 6 of 9. You got Courtney Lee with 14 points, 4 assists, shot 4 of 9. Jarrett Jack got the start in this one still, even Emmanuel Mudiay off the bench. All right, he had 8 minutes in this one. Talking about Jarrett Jack, only took 1 shot, didn't hit it. All right, shout out to Jarrett Jack. Off the bench, like I said, Emmanuel Mudiay, he had 14 points, 10 assists, shot 5 of 14, 0 of 3 from the three-point line. Not the best shooting night, but he did contribute. All right, and then you had Frank I always forget how to pronounce this guy's last name. Frank Sum, all right. He had 12 points, 3 rebounds, shot 3 of 7, 2 of 2 from the three-point line. Let's see anyone else off the bench doing anything. Kyle Quinn, he had 14 points, 9 rebounds, shot 5 of 6, 1 of 2 from the three-point line. As for those Indiana Pacers, you had Thaddeus Young with 18 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 7 of 11, 2 of 2 from the three-point line. Bojan Bogdanovic with 20 points, shot 8 of 13 from the field, 4 of 7 from the three-point line. Miles Turner dropped in 13 points with 6 rebounds. Then you had Victor Oladipo Dude's been a monster this season. 30 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. Shot 10 of 24 in that one. Off the bench, you had Lance Stevenson, everyone's favorite player, with 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Shot 6 of 9, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. I like how the Pacers really didn't do too much at the trade deadline. They didn't go out, give a first-round pick for a player or anything like that. They're pretty much standing pat and pretty much trying to let everything develop. I think that's good because, as we all know, and I'm sure the Pacers front office knows, they're not really making it far in the playoffs. I mean, as of right now, if the season ended today, they'd be facing the Cavs in the first round. Maybe you could get a couple of games against the Cavs, but I'm still taking the Cavs in a 7-game series. So stay the course. All right. Pretty much, I think it's safe to say that after the season, they could build around Victor Oladipo as their franchise player and pretty much bring in players that'll fit around him. Because, I mean, like I said, the dude's been a monster. And we never really saw this. Like, obviously, we never saw in Oklahoma City with him, and people will point out, yeah, he was playing with Russell Westbrook, but this wasn't really something that he did in Orlando either when he was there. I mean, this is really a first that we've seen for Victor Oladipo. And honestly, I think it has to do more with the comfortability factor. The guy's from Indiana. I think he's living at his parents' house while he's playing for the Pacers. So, I mean, there's just that thing about, like, because everyone in the NBA, believe it or not, is good at the game of basketball, right? That's why they're all in the NBA. They're professionals for a reason. All right, it's whether if you play poorly, it's just you can't keep up with the pace of the game, or you're just not smart enough to play as far as everything else that goes into it. All right, and there's also the comfortability factor and the confidence factor. And I think with Victor Oladipo being in Indiana, in his hometown, living with his parents, believe it or not, I think that has an effect on how well he's been playing this season. Like I said, it's just a confidence and comfortability factor for him, and I think that's one of the biggest things that's been benefiting him so far this season. So I say you build around him and pretty much go from there, because you got guys like Miles Turner and Bogdanovich, who could be key pieces in your team going forward. So we'll see what they do. As for the next game, though, we had the Dallas Mavericks heading into Houston, facing off with the Rockets, and the Rockets won this one 104-97. No Dirk in this one, but you did have Yogi Ferrell with 20 points, 5 rebounds, 7 of 14 shooting, 4 of 8 from the three-point line. One of my favorite rookies, Dennis Smith Jr., with 16 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 7 of 18. Doug McDermott with 8 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 3 of 9. And then you had Dwight Powell with 18 points, 12 rebounds, 6 of 12 shooting from the field. Then for the Rockets, you had, James Harden. He had 27 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 6 of 19, 4 of 13 from the three-point line. Chris Paul with the good shooting night from him. 9 of 15 shooting, 25 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. Clint Capella with yet again a good game. 16 points, 11 rebounds. And then off the bench, you had Gerald Green with 12 points, shot 4 of 9 from the field. All of those came from the three-point line. And then Eric Gordon with the poor shooting night. Only 2 of 11 from the field, 6 points, and only 2 rebounds. But once again, the Rockets won that one 104-97. Rockets are going to be getting Joe Johnson to come sign with them. I think soon it should be happening, and I like that move, all right? I saw Joe, nice little player, a shell of himself, but he can still come and contribute. Do I think that's going to help them beat the Warriors? No, I do not. So it's pretty much, I guess Joe Johnson will help Brendan with the second unit against the Warriors, but I mean, it's not really guys like, oh, yeah, that's the move they needed to make, and now they're going to be over the top. Like, no, I mean, this is still the Warriors league, so, I mean, it kind of stinks about it, too. Like, we're all kind of getting hyped. Ooh, the Cavs are looking good. The Rockets have been playing well. What are the Spurs going to do when they get Kawhi back? But in reality, we know who runs the league. It's the Warriors, all right? So, like I said, I mean, the Rockets are going to be getting Joe Johnson back, and, the Rockets could shock. I mean, it's not like the Warriors are going to sweep them by any means or anything like that. All right, if I had to say between the Rockets and Warriors who would win in series, it'd probably be Warriors in 6 or 7. Probably 7 if I'm being real here. So, I mean, game or 2 goes towards the Rockets' way, and who knows, maybe they can make it to the finals. But we're going to have to wait and see, obviously, when that time comes. All right, as for the next game, though, we had the Sacramento Kings facing off with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and, of course, the Timberwolves won this one 111-106. For the Kings, though, you had De'Aaron Fox with 23 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 8 of 16. Willie Cauley-Stein with 10 points, shot 4 of 8, had 7 rebounds. Let's see, you had Bogdanovich with 13 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 5 of 12, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. Off the bench, you had Buddy Hield with 16 points, 4 rebounds, shot 6 of 13, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. As for the Timberwolves, you had Taj Gibson with 15 points, 6 rebounds, 6 of 11 shooting. Taj Gibson has been enjoying himself a nice little season, all right? If you've been paying attention to Taj Gibson, the dude's been playing extremely well, I think. Then you had Andrew Wiggins with 16 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 7 of 13, 1 of 3 from the three-point line. Karl Anthony Towns with 29 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. I like it. Now Karl Anthony Towns starting to demand the ball a whole lot more and starting to take a lot more shots. That's what he needs to do. I get that Jimmy Butler is probably, I don't know, would you say Jimmy Butler is the best player on that team or Karl Anthony Towns? Either way, they both have a lot of skill, but nonetheless, early on in the season, Karl Karl-Anthony Towns wasn't getting himself enough shots, and I think he's starting to do that a whole lot more, and you can see his production starting to go up a bit. And you had Jimmy Butler with 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 5 of 9 from the field, 1 of 1 from the three-point line, and I wonder if that team is going to be excited getting Derrick Rose back. All right, obviously it's not official. They haven't signed him or anything like that, or at least I don't think they have unless I missed it, but I mean, Derrick Rose it's pretty much going to be like the Minnesota Bulls, or pretty much like that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what Tom Thibodeau does with Derrick Rose. But let's talk about the Kings for a bit, all right? De'Aaron Fox, going to be the starting point guard for sure now since George Hill is gone, and I like that. I like how they made him the starting point guard, all right? I thought that they would do that once they signed Hill to a 2-year deal, and it said that it was a team option for the second year. I figured, you know what? They're going to have Hill start for most of the first part of the season, and then once they feel Fox is ready, they'll trade Hill. That's what they did, and now Fox, look at him, 23 points starting in this one, all right? So it's going to be interesting to see how it all ends up for him. I think he does need to work on his shot a bit more because, I mean, yeah, he did go 8 of 16, but he needs to develop more of a mid-range jumper. So we'll see how it all ends up, but I like the move from them trading George Hill. All right, then we had the Memphis Grizzlies facing off with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and no surprise here, the Thunder won this one 110-92. You had Jermichael Green for the Grizzlies with 14 points, 12 rebounds, shot 5 of 12. Marcus Gasol with 18 points, 6 rebounds, 6 of 14 shooting. And look at good old Tyreke Evans back in the lineup after not getting traded. 12 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 of 11 shooting, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. For the Thunder, you have Patrick Patterson with 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 of 6 shooting. Paul George with 33 points, 8 assists, shot 10 of 24, 5 of 10 from the three-point line. Steven Adams with 9 points, 9 rebounds. Raymond Felton getting the start once again in this one with no Russell Westbrook. He had 14 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, shot 3 of 12. That is quite the Raymond Felton stat line at this point in his career. I mean, the dude almost put up a triple-double. And I don't understand. If you look at Raymond Felton, that dude does not look like an athlete. Let's be real here, all right? But nonetheless, the dude has somehow made himself a nice little NBA career, so I just got to respect that, all right? Then off the bench, you had Jeremy Grant with 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 4 of 7, and 1 of 2 from the three-point line. Once again, the Thunder won that one, 110-92. As for the final game of the night, we had the Utah Jazz facing off with the Portland Trailblazers. All right, Utah won that one, 115-96. Let's see, Derek Favors, he had 15 points, 11 rebounds, shot 7 of 13. Joe Ingles with 24 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 8 of 12 shooting, 6 of 9 from the three-point line. One of the more underrated players in the game is Joe Ingles. No one talks about the guy, but they should. All right, you had Rudy Gobert with 12 points, 11 rebounds. Donovan Mitchell, nice little game here, 27 points, 6 rebounds, 10 of 24 shooting. And then off the bench, Jay Crowder's first game with the Jazz. We'll talk more about Jay Crowder in the next segment, but he did pull out 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 5 of 11, 3 of 7 from the three-point line. All right, but once again, I said we'll talk about him more in the next segment. As for the Trailblazers, you had Damian Lillard with 39 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, shot 12 of 25, 2 of 8 from the three-point line. CJ McCollum, he had 22 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 8 of 22, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. No one else really did too much for the Trailblazers in this one. So once again, the Jazz won that one 115-96. Let me look at the West standings right now. The Utah Jazz, they're only 2.5 games back of the Pelicans for that 8th spot, and the Pelicans really haven't looked too good since Boogie blew out his Achilles. So I mean, maybe the Jazz with Jay Crowder, coming off the bench, maybe they come up with a little run. You got Donovan Mitchell leading the way there, nice little rookie there. I think he's probably the second best rookie in the league. I think he's better than Tatum. And he's not far off from Ben Simmons, I don't think, at least. But nonetheless, I mean, you got the Clippers and the Jazz fighting for that last spot, and maybe the Lakers. I mean, Lakers are 6 games back, but from their fans and from that team, I keep hearing a little playoff push type of thing there. So maybe the Lakers are starting to put something together. And like I said, we'll talk about Isaiah Thomas in the next segment. We'll talk about how good he looked with the Lakers on Saturday. So you know what? That's going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to do a bit of a weekend recap, talk about pretty much players that the Cavs traded away, talk about the Warriors a bit, and pretty much anything else that went on over the weekend. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Alright, and welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So far in today's show, we talked about the Cavs and Celtics, talked about the rest of the Sunday games from yesterday in the NBA, and for this one, we're going to talk about pretty much whatever else happened over the weekend. So, let's get into it. Alright, let's talk about the Warriors for a bit. They faced off with the Spurs. That game was on ABC, alright, primetime game, yada, 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 and, I mean, it was a good game for, I guess, first half. Then the Warriors did what the Warriors always do, pulled away and won that one 122-105, all right? I'm not really going to get too much into the stats. I mean, Klay Thompson did have 25 points. Let's see, Curry had 17. Durant only had 10 points in this one. Draymond 17 points there. And you had, for the Spurs, Kyle Anderson with 20 points and Aldridge with 20 points. All right, look at that, though. Durant only had 10 points in this one, and the Warriors still won this game by double digits. All right, and the Spurs aren't a scrub team or anything like that. I mean, these guys are still third in the West, I believe. Let me double check it here. Let's see. Yeah, the Spurs are still third in the West. All right, let's see. They are a game up on the Timberwolves. So, I mean, the Spurs are no, like I said, pushovers or anything like that. But, I mean, for the Warriors to have a guy like Kevin Durant only score 10 points and they still win this game easily, I mean, doesn't that just tell you how this all ends up? All right. But there is the whole point of where's Kawhi Leonard? And Kawhi Leonard, I mean, no one's really, I guess it's still, like, he came back for a bit and then went back into hiding. And I'm sure it probably just has to do with his quad injury still, but nonetheless, that's a bit of a weird story to look out for there. I mean, remember when he came back and then left the team again, I mean, I guess there was articles on ESPN about how he's at odds with the training staff, how they want to treat his injury and how he wants to treat his injury and all that. So, I mean, it's pretty much like a New England Patriots type of thing for those guys who for those of you who follow football, all right? But nonetheless, I mean, once the Spurs get Kawhi back, whenever he's 100%, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a dangerous team. But nonetheless, they get Kawhi back. Do we think that's a team that could compete with the Warriors? I think so. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, the Spurs could beat the Warriors or anything like that in a 7-game series, but nonetheless they compete, all right? Because like the ultimate what if last season was, what if Kawhi didn't get hurt? Would the Spurs win that series? Chances are no, but it's fun to talk about hypotheticals, isn't it? All right, so now we just got to wait and see what goes on with the Spurs. And as far as the Warriors go, I mean, if I'm them, I'm not even really worrying too much about the regular season. I know Steve Kerr, so far this season, has been pretty much resting guys whenever they want to. If they got like a little tiny bone bruise or any type of bruise or anything like that, they're sitting. So, I mean, he's been doing well as far as navigating through and keeping players healthy and pretty much fresh. So, I mean, by the time the playoffs come, they're going to be ready to go. So, like I said, as of right now, I mean, the Warriors are still by far the team to beat in the West. And I'm not really too sure if any teams out the East could compete with them. I mean, the Celtics do play them well during the regular season when they meet up twice a year. All right, it's always a close game. As for the Cavaliers, it's pretty much whenever they face off with the Warriors, you pretty much need LeBron to turn into a superhero and do everything. So let me put it this way, all right? If the Cavs were to face off with and don't think I'm crazy or anything like that. Let's say the Cavs face off with the Warriors in the finals. Then that series ends in 5 games, okay? But if the Celtics if the Celtics were to face off with a team like the Warriors, then that series probably goes 6. All right, it's a whole lot closer than the Cavs one would have been with the Warriors. All right, and again, before you call me crazy, listen real quick. The Celtics just match up better with the Warriors. I'm not sure what it is or whatever. Maybe it's a guy like Marcus Smart when he's out there can limit a guy like Steph Curry. But nonetheless, whenever the Celtics and Warriors play against each other, all right, it's always a close game. And I think it's just that Celtics have more, which the rest of the NBA should do, is pretty much Celtics have built their team to pretty much like a Warriors-type B team, you know, trying to mimic and pretty much replicate what the Warriors are doing. Playing small ball, not having too many big guys, all right, and pretty much just trying to be the same team as the Warriors. And I think that's how you beat the Warriors, is you build a team just like them. That's why the Warriors are always beating down on teams like the Cavs. I mean, you got guys like Tristan Thompson out there who pretty much got Kevin Durant running circles around them the entire time. So, I mean, as of right now, like I said, I mean, the Warriors are the team to beat. Maybe the Rockets could pull off the upset, and maybe the Spurs with Kawhi could make it a bit of a series. But nonetheless, that's all I got to say about the Warriors and Spurs right now and the rest of the teams. All right, but let's talk a bit about Isaiah Thomas. Let's talk a bit about Dwayne Wade. All right, Iman Shumpert, Jay Crowder, and Derrick Rose. Good old Derrick Rose. All right, what do those players have in common? All got traded away from the Cavs. Oh, yeah, Channing Frye. I forgot. He got traded away too. But, I mean, it's Channing Frye. No one really cares. But nonetheless, let's talk. All right, I was talking to Tate. Got our big boss man, runs everything as far as the podcast go and all that. And the rest of the media company, and he was telling me how it seems like this trade pretty much worked out for everyone, meaning the guys that were brought in for the Cavs and the guys who were traded out away from the Cavs, all right? And it kind of did look that way, because I was watching the Lakers-Mavericks game on Saturday, and Isaiah Thomas played 31 minutes in that one, all right? That's not really what a player who's on his first game with a new team does, all right? You don't really play that much. The dude had 22 points, 6 assists, shot 7 of 12, I believe, and 4-6 from the three-point line. Can't remember exactly off the top of my head. But nonetheless, Isaiah on offense, dare I say, looked like the Isaiah from the Celtics, all right? And then you got him after the game saying, oh, yeah, I got my powers back. Oh, yeah, he said, I got my powers back after his Lakers debut. All right. And, I mean, what's going on here? All right. Did Isaiah Thomas's hip just heal magically out of nowhere? Or was it just Isaiah Thomas just couldn't play with LeBron James? And I'm more inclined to think that it's the latter. All right. I think Isaiah Thomas, let me put it this way. LeBron James is an alpha. All right. That's the top dog on the team. Isaiah Thomas, after his season with the Celtics, and while he was with the Celtics, was an alpha. The dude's a leader, all right? I know people like, oh, he's 5'9", he can't be a leader, yada, yada, yada. We got to stop using that 5'9" argument, too. Like, yeah, we know Isaiah Thomas can't play defense, but nonetheless, that doesn't mean he's not a good player, all right? Because guarantee pretty much 2/3 of the league can't play defense, all right? But nonetheless, getting back to it, Isaiah Thomas was a leader and an alpha on the Celtics, all right? You put two guys like that on one team, obviously, LeBron is going to need to be the leader of the team, and Isaiah would have needed to take a back seat. But Isaiah Thomas, I don't think, knows how to do that. So I think that's one of the reasons why they just never worked out. Isaiah Thomas was trying to be too much of a leader. That's why you got him calling out players that he's only been playing with for about a week. All right, and that's why it really wasn't sitting well with LeBron, I think. So I think more it wasn't so much Isaiah was still hurt, and he very well might be. All right, it just might be a game where like the adrenaline's running and he's feeling good playing with the Lakers and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I mean, it just, his style of play and pretty much what they need to do with LeBron as far as the Cavs go, I mean, it just doesn't work out there. So I think that's why Isaiah played so well with the Lakers. Because if you watch the game, I mean, Isaiah Thomas was taking the ball down the court constantly, all right? You had players who, like Brandon Ingram, if they take the ball down the court, they're still looking for Isaiah, pretty much trying to integrate him into the game plan and pretty much trying to have a role for him to play. And it was working out. The only reason why the Lakers won that game is just because, I mean, the team couldn't play defense. And that's one thing about Isaiah, too, like I said. I mean, it looked like him playing against this Mavericks team looked like he was playing against Giants, all right? Mavericks, every time coming down the court with Isaiah playing defense, they'd run a pick and roll, have a guy like Dirk or Powell switch on to Isaiah, and pretty much it's like me trying to guard Shaq, all right? I'm only like 5'6", I guess 5'5", 5'6" if I'm wearing the right shoes, all right? But nonetheless, I mean, it's just Isaiah. That's one thing that hurts him is just his defense. But nonetheless, he did play well with the Lakers, and I did like the way he was playing. I mean, the dude was hitting shot after shot, it looked like. And, I mean, his first shot as a Laker was a three, and he did hit that. So, I mean, he looked good. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm not sure if they play tonight. I'm going to double-check that because for the fourth segment, we will be making my picks for the games going on each day. We do the podcast, so we'll be doing that. So, if the Lakers play tonight, we'll be talking about that. But for the fourth segment. But nonetheless, Isaiah looked good in his debut with the Lakers. Then you got Dwayne Wade back in Miami, all right? My brother's a big-time Heat fan. He was so excited to see Dwayne Wade going back to Miami. He bought his, the City jersey, those little Miami Vice-type jerseys. Those are probably the nice jerseys in the league, too. All right, so Dwayne Wade, how did he do on Friday in his pretty much, I don't know, can you call that a debut? No, you can't call it a debut since he's already been there, right? I mean, it is a debut this season with the Heat, but nonetheless, you get what I'm saying. All right, Dwayne Wade, what did he do? He went 1 for 6. All right, he did hit a 3, only scored 3 points in that one. But, I mean, it was more of a sentimental type thing for him to be back there in his first game. Obviously, I think he's going to play well. Probably some jitters as far as him being back in Miami. You got LeBron saying that his head was, Dwayne Wade's head was always in Miami the entire time. Got him checking the Heat scores and all that. But Dwayne Wade did make a big play in that game, all right? Think about, what was it, about a minute, 2 minutes left. You got the Heat up 85-81, I believe. You got Eric Bledsoe driving down, going for a layup off the steal, and then you got Dwayne Wade doing Dwayne Wade things. Got him blocking Eric Bledsoe and pretty much getting fouled after that. So that pretty much helps seal the Heat win. It's going to be interesting to see as far as Dwayne Wade's role with the Heat. Obviously, he's not going to be a starter or anything like that. Maybe he'll be more of a mentor or kind of a leader off the bench for the second unit as far as production goes. So, I mean, the Heat are currently, let me see, I think they're currently 6th or 7th in the... They're currently 7th in the East, a half game up on the Sixers for that 8th spot, game and a half back of the Bucks for that 5th spot, and 2 games back of the Washington Wizards for that 4th spot, and dare I say, 3.5 games back of the Cleveland Cavaliers for that 3rd spot, all right? So, I mean, this Heat team, I'm almost positive, is going to be making the playoffs, so it's going to be interesting to see pretty much how his role develops and what he does as far as going forward with this team, because, I mean, yeah, I get it's Dwayne Wade, and I get that he's a Miami Heat legend. He is the best player ever to play for the Miami Heat. Actually, can't say that. This guy, LeBron James, did play for them for a bit, but nonetheless, you get what I'm saying, all right? It's going to be interesting to see, like, because I get the whole sentimental value, but Dwayne Wade's going to have to learn that, you know what? You're past your prime. You're going to have to make way for these other guys that are there, all right? Don't do too much. Pretty much get with the program. It's going to be interesting to see if that's how it's going to fit with him. I mean, it looked like it did against the Bucks on Friday, so we'll see how it all ends up. But nonetheless, good little story for him. And like I said, how about Jay Crowder off the bench for the Jazz, scoring 15 points? I mean, been a tough year for him. Didn't really fit in too well with the Cavs. I mean, got traded away from the Celtics. I know for the most part, I think he liked playing there. I mean, you got Celtics fans when he was there cheering for Gordon Hayward and all that. I know that did rub Jay Crowder the wrong way if you paid attention to any of his tweets or what he was saying. But nonetheless, I mean, it's been a pretty rough season for Jay Crowder. Do I keep calling him Jay Howard? I don't know why. All right, but Jay Crowder. And I think the Jazz team is pretty much a perfect fit for him because they run the same type. They're almost the same kind of team as the Celtics, right? Don't do too much. Play a lot of team basketball. Play off of each other, all right? And the Cavs obviously didn't do that because you play off of LeBron. But with this Jazz team, it's more team ball. So I think Jay Crowder, he's going to benefit too. It's pretty much, like I said, it's the deal as far as the trades go that happened with the Cavs. It works out for everyone. How about Derrick Rose? Looking like he's going to be signing with the Bulls. That's going to be interesting to see because I know with the Timberwolves, man, I'm really off of it today. He's going to be signing with the Timberwolves. I mean, it's going to be like the Bulls. I mean, they got Taj Gibson, Tom Thibodeau, and Jimmy Butler out there. But nonetheless, I mean, him with the Timberwolves is going to be interesting to see because I know Timberwolves fans have been wanting Tyus Jones to be playing a whole lot more, have been wanting him to play over Jeff Teague quite a bit, especially in crunch time. But Tom Thibodeau is stubborn. Believe it or not, Wolves fans, Derrick Rose is going to be taking Tyus Jones minutes. So, I mean, get ready for the Derrick Rose experience. And Derrick Rose, I think, needs to play one more season so he can get that extra money from that Adidas contract. So it's going to be big for Derrick Rose, too. And then there's Iman Shumpert, the forgotten one, all right? I know Channing Frye, you could say, is the forgotten one, but nonetheless, I mean, the dude's all. How about Iman Shumpert? Where is he? He's in good old Sacramento. Poor guy. I don't know what it is. I mean, I live in Sacramento. I live the city, all right? I love living here. People are nice and all that, but for some reason, all NBA players hate playing in Sacramento. All right, I was talking with Tate before the show, talking about how it's worked out for each team or for each player getting traded away. I was like, I don't know. There's that guy, Iman Shumpert, playing in Sac. And, you know, like I said, everyone hates Sacramento as far as NBA players. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if they just despise the front office that much. But nonetheless, I mean, poor Iman Shumpert's got to play with the Sacramento Kings going forward. I mean, it's going to be a dumpster fire season for them. They're just going to keep losing games, trying to lock up a top pick, trying to get a guy like Luka Doncic or Marvin Bagley. So, I mean, poor Iman Shumpert probably got the short end of the stick. I mean, at least Channing Frye and Isaiah Thomas, yeah, they're on bad Lakers team, but that team is fun to watch and it's fun to, I'm sure it's fun to play with them. So, poor Iman Shumpert. But that's all I got to say about that. Next up, we're going to be talking about Greg Oden, all right, making his comeback. We're going to talk about Markelle Fultz a little bit too. I saw that the Sixers got him on some type of little VR system as far as trying to fix his shot, and we're going to make my picks for the games going on tonight, which is Monday. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So far, we talked about LeBron and the new look Cavs. All right, we talked about the games from yesterday. Talked about pretty much the Heat, or not the Heat players, the Cavs players who were traded away and how they did. And for this segment, as I said earlier on in the show, pretty much the fourth segment's always going to be some pretty much that I want to talk about as far as what's going through my mind as far as basketball goes, maybe some weird news as far as in basketball, or pretty much anything else that we haven't covered. All right, and we'll be making my picks for the NBA games every time we do this show for the games going on that night. So we'll do that lastly. But let's talk a bit about Greg Oden. All right. His name was entered in the draft pool for the Big 3 League. All right, that's Ice Cube's league. You got guys like Steven Jackson, all those guys that were playing there. And it's good to see that Greg Oden is going to be trying to come out and play basketball again, all right? Dude was quite the bust, probably the biggest bust of all time. I don't know, would you consider Anthony Bennett the biggest bust of all time or Greg Oden? I mean, Greg Oden, he couldn't help himself. All right, it wasn't his fault that he was a bust. All right, it's just his body did not want to help him at all, and just pretty much wanted to break down every time he touched a basketball or a basketball court. All right, so it just didn't really work out. As far as Anthony Bennett goes, I mean, the dude just was not a good basketball player with that team. I think he's currently with the Maine Red Claws. That's the Boston Celtics, I think, G League affiliate team. So I think he's still down there. I haven't, last time I saw that was earlier on in the year. So I'm not sure if he's still there, but nonetheless, that's where Anthony Bennett is. And I still can't believe this. The Cavs took Anthony Bennett number one overall. I mean, wow, what a pick there. Shout out Dan Gilbert. But nonetheless, Greg Oden is going to try and come back to an NBA, or not to an NBA court, just to a basketball court and play again, all right? And I'm rooting for the guy. I hope he does well. I mean, you really don't want to wish injury upon anyone. So, I mean, it just stinks to see that his career ended so quick. I mean, plus, I mean, it doesn't help the fact that Kevin Durant was drafted right after him. So, I mean, it's just all around just a bad deal for Greg Oden. But hopefully it works out for him in the G League, and hopefully he stays healthy there. All right, so pretty much just wanted to note that Greg Oden is going to be playing basketball again. And for those wondering, what's going on with Greg Oden? Where's he at right now? I think he's the assistant coach at Ohio State for their basketball team. So at least he's doing something basketball related. All right, but now let's talk about the curious case of Markelle Fultz. All right, this is probably the weirdest story of the NBA season so far, and it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. All right, I'm not really sure what happened with the guy. I mean, going into the draft, he was clear-cut number one pick. That's what everyone was saying. Could score at 3 levels. All right, could drive in mid-range and then could shoot the 3 ball easily. All right, shot 41% from the 3-point line with Washington. And, I mean, the Sixers gave up the 3rd pick and the Lakers pick, if it fits 2 through 5, to the Celtics. All right, so yeah, they take Fultz, and he plays 4 games, and we're like, wait, what's going on with the dude's free throw shooting motion? Why is he shooting like that? Why is he shooting like a robot? So they take him out, say it's a shoulder injury or whatever, and that's what caused it. And, I mean, like this whole, like, I could probably spend a whole segment talking about Markelle Fultz and his little injury, all right? But I'm just going to spend a little bit of it on this 4th segment. I have no clue what's going on with the guy. I'm not sure if it's his shoulder injury caused him to shoot weird or him shooting weird caused his shoulder injury. But nonetheless, I mean, the Sixers now, they have him using like the virtual reality goggles to help fix his shooting motion. All right. They're trying to get Markelle Fultz, all right, to fix his shot by putting on virtual reality goggles. I don't know how that helps. I need someone to let me know, all right. Leave a review on iTunes or tweet at the GSMC basketball podcast Twitter. Tweet, like, let me know how that helps him fix his shooting motion. I don't get it. How does putting on virtual reality goggles help you develop a jumper? How? I have no clue. All right, I don't understand how that helps it at all. Like, the way that Philly has handled this whole little situation has been bizarre, and that's probably like the most generous term I could use for that. All right, because like I said, I mean, Markelle Fultz, like, they have him practicing, and I remember Brian Coangelo the other day was asked, like, is he not playing because he's not medically cleared? And Coangelo says, like, that's not necessarily it. That doesn't really have anything to do with it, all right? The dude is just mentally shook, all right? He has no confidence. He is shot, all right? His head is just not there. I say just sit the guy for the rest of the season and have him figure it out. Because you know what? Philly's trying to make the playoffs here, and let's say you bring Markelle Fultz back into the when they make the playoffs, you really think that's going to help the guy's confidence? The dude is trying to learn how to shoot. And let's say, like, they're still talking about, like, oh, yeah, he can come back soon, or he can just shut him down for the rest of the season. Don't even entertain it. Just shut him down. There's no point in bringing him back for the season, all right? Like I said, the dude's confidence is gone. You bring him back, let's say hypothetically, all right? Because like I said, this is all hypotheticals. Let's say they make the playoffs, like, oh, yeah, Markelle Fultz is going to be returning back. You think that's going to help his confidence? Really? I mean, it's just weird. I mean, the guy going into the draft, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to create a rivalry with Lonzo. I'm going to be the better player, yada, yada, yada. Was talking, and then all of a sudden, I mean, the dude just, like, the Monster stole his talent like Space Jam. I'm not sure what happened, but, I mean, this is bizarre, all right? Just how it's all ended up. I mean, they're using virtual reality goggles to help him fix his shot. Are you serious, Philly? You don't have a coach, maybe, possibly, that could, oh, yeah, do this and it'll work. Like, you don't have coaches? Is that what we're doing? Ridiculous. But nonetheless, I mean, if Markelle Fultz, let's say Markelle Fultz hypothetically turns into a bust, that's going to set Philly back a little bit because, I mean, with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, this is a team who is a fringe 8th seed, low lottery team, meaning 14th pick or whatever in the lottery around there. You're not really going to get a future franchise point guard at that pick. All right, you're definitely not going to be getting it, making the playoffs year after year as an 8th seed. So, I mean, they really got to figure out this Markelle Fultz situation, or else they're going to be in a bit of trouble. All right, because like I said, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, we know they're going to be solid NBA players. Joel Embiid, when he's healthy, is already a top 5 center. Ben Simmons is already looking like a great player in the league right now. All right, going to be winning Rookie of the Year, but you don't have that third player, that point guard right there, like Markelle Fultz. Good luck. All right, but nonetheless, I'm not sure how virtual reality fixes his jump shot, but I mean, I guess I'm just the guy with the podcast. They know better, right? Well, that's all I got to say about that. All right, let's make my picks for the games going on tonight, which is Monday. All right, first up, we got the New Orleans Pelicans facing off with the Detroit Pistons. This game's in Detroit. Detroit is favored in this one by 2.5. The Pistons are currently 18-11 at home. Pelicans are 15-14 on the road. Rajon Rondo over the weekend had a triple-double. I'm not really sure who to pick in this one, right? The Pistons have had 2 back-to-back bad losses against the Nets and the Hawks, I believe it was. So, do I go with them at home, where they have been a solid home team, or do I go with the Pelicans and Anthony Davis? I'm gonna go with the Pistons, all right? Anthony Davis is gonna do well against Andre Drummond, but I don't think the Pelicans really have anyone who can match up with Blake Griffin all too well. So I'm gonna go with the Pistons in this one. They're gonna snap that little 2-game losing streak they've gone on. All right, then we got the New York Knicks facing off with the Philadelphia 76ers, and I think I'm going to go with Philly in this one. All right, Knicks 23-34, no Porzingis obviously, probably for a couple years, because like I said, if the Knicks are a bad team next year, there's really no point in bringing him back because he's not going to be healthy till probably January, February, maybe even March. Like I said, if the Knicks are just a garbage dumpster fire team, then there's no point in bringing the guy back. So we could be out quite a bit with seeing no Porzingis. But like I said, getting back to it, the Knicks are 7-23 on the road. Sixers are 16-10 at home. They're currently favored by 11.5 as they should be. I'm not sure if they're going to cover, but nonetheless, I'm picking the Sixers in this one. It's a pretty easy one there. All right, not really too much to think about. Then we got the Clippers heading into Brooklyn, facing off with the Nets, obviously, and I'm going to go with the Clippers in this one, all right? The Nets really aren't that good of a team. Spencer Dinwiddie's been having quite a bit of a good season here. You got Lou Williams, who signed his little contract extension with the Clippers last week, and I mean, the Clippers are just a better team, so there's really no real science behind it. I'm just going with the better team. I got the Clippers winning that one. Then we got the Orlando Magic facing off with the Chicago Bulls. This one's in Chicago. Chicago has been a bit of a weird team, all right? Not a great team or anything like that. Currently got one of the worst records in the league, but nonetheless, they compete. And you know what? If you're able to compete against the good teams, then you're going to be able to beat the bad teams. So I'm going with the Bulls in this one. Magic are going to take the loss. All right, so I got the Bulls. Then we got the Spurs facing off with the Utah Jazz. Let me see. I don't think we're going to be having, no LaMarcus Aldridge. And this one, I believe, think he's going back to San Antonio, get a little treatment on his knee. Not like he's injured or anything like that, just some maintenance type stuff. So I'm gonna go with the Jazz in this one. All right, they played well yesterday, and the Spurs really they're a bad road team. All right, they're 13-16 on the road. Jazz are currently 16-9 at home. So I'm gonna go with the Jazz. Then for the final game of the night, this is going to be a bad one. Come on, NBA TV, do better. We get the Phoenix Suns facing off with the Golden State Warriors, and I don't need to put any rationale as to why I'm making this pick. All right, I'm going with the Warriors. They're favored by 16. I'm sure they're going to cover in that one easily. So I got the Warriors winning this one, all right? To recap my picks, I have the Pistons beating the Pelicans, the Sixers beating the Knicks, Clippers beating the Nets, Bulls beating the Magic, the Jazz beating the Spurs, and the Warriors beating the Suns. No upset picks. I know the Jazz over the Spurs sounds like one, but Utah is currently favored in that game. So those are my picks for the games tonight. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Today we talked about the Celtics facing off with the Cavs yesterday, talked about that beatdown they got. Recap the rest of the Sunday games in the NBA in the second segment. Third segment, we talked about the players who were traded away from the Cavs, talked a bit about the Warriors and Spurs, and for this one, we talked about the insanity of the Markelle Fultz situation, talked about Greg Oden, and made my picks as we just did for the games going on tonight. Thanks for listening to today's show. It was a fun one. I'm going to enjoy doing the GSMC basketball podcast going forward. For those wondering, we will be doing the podcast Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every week, so stay tuned on those days. Once again, thanks for listening to the GSMC basketball podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. We'll be back later, so stay tuned, and thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.